Hello, everyone. Welcome to the NPHM's first Facebook Live public program. Welcome. We got, well, I'm Mark Jeschke, real quick. We'll all do introductions again shortly. I'm also here with our ED, Lisa Yun Lee, and one of our oral historians, Shakira Johnson. Y'all want to say hi?
Hi guys.
Hi.
So we're
There's
just gonna
like a
wait.
delay.
It's because you have the audio on your Facebook Live still. You gotta mute that. So we're going to be hanging out here for just a couple minutes, waiting for folks to come on. We got 12 lovely human beings who are listening right now. Hello, all 12 of you.
Hi.
Okay, sorry. I need to do a tech check. I don't get it. There's such a long delay.
That's just how it goes because it's going through Facebook. It has to go from here into Facebook, so we're all good. Everything's fine. There's just going to naturally be a delay. Hi everyone. The 12 has now grown into 16. Hello, 17.
Awesome.
Charlie Barlow is in the house. Hello, Charlie. And so is my mom, Louise. Hello, Mom.
Mhm.
My mom's birthday was yesterday, so happy belated. I called you yesterday, but all right, we're gonna wait another minute or so, let folks kind of siphon on in. Hope everyone is doing as well as they can right now. I know it's quite a crazy time to be a human. We're really excited to share this audio piece with everyone. We spent quite a bit of time, tweaking everything, and we're really excited to share it out. All right, well,
I just turned it off.
all right, well, I think, hello, everyone. I think it's now, it's a couple minutes after 6, so we're going to get started. Well, hello and welcome. My name is Mark Jeschke. I'm the oral history coordinator at the National Public Housing Museum, and for tonight, I'm also going to be the MC for our online debut of our audio listening series, Out of the Archives. And I'd, again, just really like to thank everyone who's tuned in so far, everyone who's going to be tuning in a couple of minutes. I know it's a totally crazy time to be a human right now, and I hope that the next couple of minutes, 20 or so minutes, are going to be a little bit of a reprieve from that for everyone. This is the second edition of our listening series called Out of the Archives. A little bit of background information about the museum's oral history archive. Since 2017, we've been collecting oral histories from current and former public housing residents to create a repository that is designed not only as a space to learn about the long and varied history of public housing from all over the country, but it's also a direct source of knowledge to inform activists who are working on housing policy and to inspire future generations from the stories of resilience, community, family. And one thing that one of our board members loves to say that really, I think, really well describes the stories in the archive is you can get the good, the bad, and the ugly. I'd also like to share a really poignant quote from the human rights activist Arundhati Roy, which is, there's really no such thing as the voiceless. There are only the deliberately silenced or the preferably unheard. And we all believe that this quote speaks volumes about this project and also speaks to our hope to expand the base of American history in a radical and very inclusive way. In order to further democratize history, we have to be as expansive as possible. Who we're giving authority to, oftentimes, history is written by the winner, and I think we are able to really share the mic in a very literal way with some people who've been left out of the mainstream narrative, and I really think that our archive works to do that. So I'm going to take a little breather for myself, and I'm going to pass it off to our ED, Dr. Lisa Yun Lee. And there she is. Lisa,
Hey,
take
Mark.
it away.
Thanks so much. Yeah, and I'm just here to share a little bit about the history and the vision and the mission of the National Public Housing Museum. And for those of you who aren't familiar with us, we are the first and only cultural institution in the United States dedicated to interpreting the American experience in public housing. And our mission is to preserve, promote, and also propel housing as a human right. And all of our partnerships and programs are committed to amplifying the voices, experiences, and stories of public housing residents. Ultimately, we believe that storytelling can be a catalyst for innovative public policy solutions that are responsive to people's needs and lived experiences. And, there can be no, I think, more important issue for us now than the issue of housing insecurity. And we have a really curious, interesting, beautiful beginning to our museum. And it starts really in 2000 when the Chicago Housing Authority launched the Plan for Transformation. It was one of the most ambitious urban redevelopment projects in the United States history. And, the plan actually called for the demolition of 11 high-rise public housing developments and the addition of 25,000 new units of housing, supposedly integrating the public housing residents into the larger social, economic, and physical fabric of Chicago through the social experiment of mixed income housing. Now, many advocates welcome the plan as urgently needed urban renewal that encouraged racial and class integration in one of the most highly segregated cities in the United States. And it was an opportunity to rebuild poorly maintained housing. For others, however, the plan was a scheme to displace thousands of families without any guarantee of an affordable replacement and an extension of the intentional neglect that the city's most vulnerable citizens had already been suffering for decades. Now, the long-lasting impact of the plan, its successes and its failures, will continue to reverberate and be debated throughout the next decades. And the museum plans to be the civic institution to not only convene conversations, but also a place to create solutions around the future of housing. But that's maybe for another episode of Out of the Archives. The history of the museum is that it was during this period in the early 2000s that public housing residents mobilized to save one building from demolition in order to create a museum. Was led by the indefatigable Commissioner Javira Beverly, a founding board member of the museum, and who was a Chicago Commissioner of Public Housing and a lifelong resident of Abla Homes. And she, along with public housing residents across the city, insisted on a museum that would preserve and tell their stories, particularly after this devastating period of urban renewal. Residents profoundly understood the power of place and representation, and they are the ones that tenaciously demanded a museum in a historic building that would serve as a visible reminder of the history of public housing. They understood how a cultural institution might be a site for resistance against erasure and forgetting, and they felt that there was a really important role for a museum, one in which where they could control the narrative in the struggle for self-determination. So in 2008, scholars, preservationists, and cultural activists joined a movement in support of the museum, and that's also when I got involved. And the particular building identified to become the future permanent site of the museum was part of the Jane Addams Homes, a beautiful 1938 demonstration project under the Public Works Administration that was built with the intention of showcasing visionary public housing ideas. And finally, in November 2018, after almost a decade of organizing and activism, the CHA granted the museum a 99-year land lease for $1. The U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, HUD, deeded the building, a 48,000 square foot building, to us. And so after almost a decade of planning committees and other staff members leading efforts to imagine future exhibitions and programming, we're now gaining a lot of momentum and in the final phases of raising the last bit of money for the capital campaign to open in the space as soon as possible. And I'm just going to say three things, which is In the museum, there's going to be a beautiful public garden with restored Edgar Miller sculptures that people are going to hear a little bit about today on this episode. The entrance is designed by the amazing Amanda Williams and Oleg Jayafus. And that's even before you go into the building. Sort of shout out to our architects, Pete Landon, and our family of architects with Landon, Bone and Baker, who've worked with us to create a beautiful space inside, which will include 3 created apartments from different eras of public housing. There's going to be exhibits with everyday objects from public housing residents across the country, oral history archive, oral history recording studios, civic engagement spaces, so people can get activated and involved in housing advocacy today. And there's also going to be a museum store that's cooperative, owned with public housing residents. We really also believe in residents as partners, and so there's going to be a cultural workforce program to train public housing residents to become the museum's educators and help run the museum. And we're proud that we have a community benefits agreement, which is a really necessary thing for 21st century cultural organization. So, so if there are people out there who are interested in getting involved in one of the most exciting cultural projects out there, and if you're interested in connecting history with urgent contemporary social justice struggles and advocating for housing as a human right, hit us up. Thanks, Mark.
Awesome. Well, I guess I kind of popped in the video a little early, but I'm just wondering if you want to talk a little bit about some of the work that we're doing right now, as we're not able to, be at the museum in our offices in River North.
Yeah. So, like so many arts and cultural organizations, National Public Housing Museum has adapted its programming during the pandemic. And as a part of hashtag Museums at Home, we are actually distributing masks, hundreds of masks all throughout Chicago. They're designed by the amazing artists and activists Alexandria Aregbu, Mary Scott Boria, who I see on the Facebook feed. Shout out to Mary. And also Darthula Young. And we're going to be distributing these masks on the south, the near north, and the west side. And the masks actually have a label that tell the curious history of face masks in the USA. A lot of people don't know that during the influenza pandemic of 1918, officials advised everyone to wear masks in public, just as the CDC recommends today. And then later in the 50s and 60s, in the Jim Crow era, there were many anti-mask laws that were passed to keep Ku Klux Klan members from concealing their faces. And then in more recent years, those same laws have been used against political protesters. So we have these like beautiful labels that are designed by Lauren Miranda, our exhibition designer, and we're going to be passing masks tomorrow. Cabrini Green. We're really excited with our partnership there with Miss Carol Steele and the LAC. And on the South Side, we work with community builders. And so our project is really, insisting that art, culture, creativity, and history are also essential in these times, along with face masks. Thanks, Mark.
Yeah, thank you, Lisa. All right. So, in addition to Lisa, we also have one of our oral historians with us today, Shakira Johnson, who I'm going to bring up to the front right now. There we go.
Hi, everybody.
Hey, so Shakira, like I said, is one of the museum's oral historians, and we offer a rigorous oral history training program that both Shakira and I took part in, that trains students in the best practices for recording another person's oral history. And many of the program's graduates actually were able to join our oral history corps, who are the folks who are really doing the major heavy lifting on building our collection. In addition to being one of the museum's oral historians, Shakira is a former public housing resident and an aspiring author. Shakira, what is one thing about your work as an oral historian that you would like to share with everyone today?
So, hi, everybody. One of the things I actually want to share with you all is I always like to acknowledge how much it takes for the storytellers to be vulnerable and share their experiences with me. A lot of the times some memories aren't so pleasant, and then we come across a few times where, memories of our lives have made us extremely happy. And oftentimes we tend to reminisce on situations that helped shape us into the individuals that we are today. So I often learn that as people, we have such unique stories. Um, and then also acknowledging that we also share so much as being human beings, and the fact that everyday people matter. And memories can be such a powerful way to hold on to traditions and loved ones and things that we actually care about. Basically, things that are important to us. And so, using the platform of conducting oral histories, in my opinion, allows narrators to control their own history. And I think that's a wonderful thing, because you often have times of people being able to control the story of what they think happened about your life and their opinions. But when you get to share your story through oral histories, you become the controller of your story. You own it, and nobody can change how you feel about your memories. So I think that's a positive thing about that. For example, I did a recording with someone one time, and then it actually got to the point where we shared a few great moments, and then all of a sudden it was a moment of silence, followed by tears. And it wasn't necessarily that, oh, we're bringing up bad memories, but sometimes the emotions are so high that you remember things that made you so happy. So they're happy tears, and then you start to reminisce on all the things that you've been through. And at the end of a recording, for me, being able to share their experience, I talked to somebody for about an hour, and then I feel like I've been on a life journey with them. So I like to share with the audience that being comfortable sharing stories and actually committing to being open and honest about uh, your life takes a lot. And after you go into, oh, I don't know what to expect from this, then you're at the end of the story or at the end of the recording happy that you talked about it, because you get to go wherever you like with the story. So it's not necessarily about me. It's about building those moments with the people that I meet. And then also just sharing that time with them, being able to be an open listener, and just enjoying the moment while we're there.
So you mentioned some of the people that you've got to meet. Do you want to maybe highlight some of the more well-known people that you had an opportunity to do interviews with?
Of course. So I actually got the chance to travel to Washington, D.C., which was amazing. I got the chance to record Congressman Bobby Rush there, who previously lived in the Robert Taylor homes. I also got the chance to record a story by the legendary basketball player Tanisha Wright from the WNBA. So I get to travel a little bit, but I also get to meet a lot of influential people who help shape the way for communities and for individuals who strive to become better, and also pursue their dreams in the midst of anything that they're going through. So,
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Shakira.
no problem.
I'm going to send you back into the internet ether for a little bit. Um, all right. So a little bit about tonight's episode. We're gonna get started real soon. But I want to give a shout out to all of our gracious storytellers that include Betty Howard, who lived in Cabrini Green and Lathrop Homes. Her story tonight is going to be focusing at her time in Cabrini. Tommy Woods, who lived in the Lathrop Homes. Phil Ayala and Janetta Pegues, who lived in Abla. And our wonderful and inspiring board chair, excuse me, Sonny Fisher, who lived in New York's Eastchester projects, and Leroy Murphy, who lived in the Robert Taylor homes. In future episodes, we're really hoping to address, again, a wide range of topics. Some of the ones that we've been talking about include mental health, arts and culture, athletics, relationship building, and many, many more. And we are always very open to your all suggestions for things that you might want to hear about in future Out of the Archives episodes. And in addition to being your charming MC for the night, I'm also the museum's oral history coordinator. And I mentioned a little bit earlier about the museum's oral history corps. But in addition to that outward facing work, I'm also working with a brilliant archivist named Skylar Hearn, who I think is in the house right now. I'm not sure, on some of the more back of house database work that's going to be helping to create a radically accessible, social justice centered database that will host all of the recordings that we've done, including our future recordings. Speaking of future recordings, I know that right now is a very confusing and difficult time, but feel free to reach out to me. My email address I will post online later. But if you have a pen and pencil and paper, feel free to write down mjaeschke@nphm.org if you are a current or former public housing resident, or you may know someone who might want to add their story to our archive. I guess the last group of people that I want to give a direct shout out to are our Oral History Corps members, many of whom actually did some of the interviews in this episode, that include Hannah Barg, Ashley Jefferson, Shakira Johnson, who you've already been hanging out with a little bit, Maria Moon, and Colette Payne. Again, without all those folks, there would be no Out of the Archives project. And while there are a million or more people that I could also give shout outs to, I think we'd be here all night if I did that. And so we're gonna start the audio in just 1 minute. Throughout the audio, I've selected some images of the buildings that are kind of featured in these stories. In addition to that, you're also going to see a photo of a young Sunny Fisher outside of her home at the East Chester Project. So without further ado, of Out of the Archives, bringing the outdoors in, community and recreation in public housing. And please, in the comment section, if there's not audio working, let us know. Thanks. On behalf of the National Public Housing Museum, we thank you for tuning into our listening series, Out of the Archives. In each episode, we will share a diverse range of stories told by public housing residents from our oral history archive. Each episode features a different theme that responds to our mission: to preserve, promote, and propel the right of all people to a place where they can live and prosper, a place to call home. Stories make up the backbone of any culture. They tell us who we are and where we are from. They create empathy and understanding, and they allow us an opportunity to share our experiences and learn from the words of others. The stories in this archive lift up the voices of an oftentimes marginalized community and create a space for important conversations to happen. Now, more than ever, we are able to see the importance of community, and as the legendary civil rights activist Coretta Scott King said, the greatness of a community is most accurately measured by the compassionate actions of its members. In this episode, Bringing the Outdoors In, Community and Recreation in Public Housing, we hope to share some of that compassion with you through the words of our storytellers: Betty Howard, who lived in Cabrini Green; Tommy Woods, who lived in the Lathrop homes; Phil Ayala and Janetta Pegues, who lived in Avila; Sunny Fisher, who lived in the East Chester Projects; and Leroy Murphy, who lived in the Robert Taylor homes. These stories span from 1949 to 1983.
My name is Betty Howard. I do have a middle name, Jean, but I don't use it. So from the Wyndon Hotel, we got this opportunity to move into the new CHA housing project, Cabrini, which, like I said, when we arrived there, everything was brand new, brand new refrigerator, and we'd moved from a dump. I mean, I remember seeing one time a rat as big as a cat go in the kitchen. It was the worst possible conditions. So moving into a brand spanking new apartment with new playgrounds, and they had those turtles, that you could ride, these stone turtles and the barrels. I don't know if you've ever seen, the playgrounds they had at the projects, and swings and monkey bars and everything brand spanking new.
My name is Tommy. Everything I know about growing up was at Lathrop Homes at 2707, where it initially started. And growing up was a childhood dream. Multiple friends, many play with their family, go on trips with them to the lake front, go to the mall with them. So growing up was an adventure. Inside the Lathrop Homes, we look at each other as family, extended family members. Whereas any sibling that have a discretion can yell and fight per se among themselves. But outside of the neighborhood of Lathrop Homes, no matter what or where you are, that bond, that union with your friends was instilled that we are family. And I can be anywhere in the city and see another Lathrop Homes resident, and right away that family bond is enriched. Whereas, hey, that's my brother over there. Hey, that's my sister over there. We have a commonality, a bond like no other.
My name is Philip Ayala. Well, we were always playing some sport in Madill. You know, after me and my brother had a couple of confrontations, you know, we had to fight our way out of school. But we never ran. And I think that it's that situation is you gain, respect. You don't run. You fought and you lost, or you don't. And once we did that, a lot of the Afro-American kids accepted. We became friends. And some we never became friends. And we used to play ball after school. At Madill and one of the lots, and we played against each other. We choose teams, and then we got to know them, and they got to know us, and there was kind of an acceptance.
Okay, so my name is Janetta. I'll give you my full name, Janetta Sue Pegues. My mother, of course, came up from the Great Migration from Arkansas, and although she was a city woman to the core, there was always a country part of her. So we had a garden, flowers in the front yard, and vegetables in the backyard. And she actually took a class with the university, Circle Campus, on how to be a better gardener. So I still have that certificate. Yeah.
Can you describe that garden a little bit more? What was in it? What you grew up?
Flowers, definitely greens, tomatoes. What else? I think carrots. But I mostly remember the greens because that's what I liked. If it wasn't something that I didn't like, I wasn't interested in it. So I love greens. Yeah. I was always like a picky eater, and only certain things I would like to eat. But I remember that, and I remember beautiful flowers. And the neighbors too. One of the neighbors, Miss Smith, that lived across the way, every year she would have exotic flowers. I couldn't tell you the name of them, but the flowers are pretty, and she tended them, very lovingly. You'd always see Miss Smith out, tending her garden.
I'm Sunny Fisher. I remember vividly playing in this playground that was built. It was funny. The trees were very spindly because they were new trees, and they surrounded this playground, but the playground was made at an asphalt ground, and then we had these huge barrels, yellow and black barrels that painted stripes on it. Now they would never do something like that because it was too dangerous. And in fact, I had many scrapes that bloodied my face when I fell off of them onto the asphalt ground. But they were so much fun, and they really sparked creativity. The kids that I played with would play cowboys and Indians, and we would. There was a maze that we made into our ranch. There was a library in the development as well, and the librarian there, whose name I still remember, his name was Jerry Goldman, and I'm talking more than 60 years ago. He would be, he was probably as influential or more than my teachers in developing my intellectual interests and capacities, because he'd always have books for me when I'd come in. He let me into the adult section when I was only 10 years old. He was just a wonderful man. And there was also a lot of youth development programs. I remember actually becoming a leader, such as it was, of this girls group that we were in, where we would learn all sorts of things. We would sing, we would dance, we would read, we would do all sorts of things. And I think it was my first experience with that kind of group activities.
And I'm Leroy Murphy.
And tell me about, like, the Robert Taylor homes. How many homes were there? Did you go to each home? What was it like?
But there was apartments.
Right.
It was 16 floors.
Uh-huh.
It was 10 apartments on each floor. And if you were to get on an elevator, take you to the first floor, and everybody sort of played in the playground. And downstairs, like maybe 50 feet. And mainly that was mainly in the projects.
I'm sorry, what?
That was mainly it.
Oh.
You know, we go down and play in the center. We didn't go too far out the sight of your mama, so people can see you.
The NPHM thanks you for listening to this episode of Out of the Archives. This series is supported by the Institute of Museum and Library Services, the Illinois Arts Council Agency, the Kresge Foundation, and the Department of Cultural Affairs and Special Events. This episode was engineered by Seth Engel at Palette Sound. A special thanks, once again, to our wonderful storytellers, Betty Howard, Tommy Woods, Phil Ayala, Janetta Pegues, Sonny Fisher, and Leroy Murphy. We would also like to thank our Oral History Corps and the other Chicago oral historians who helped gather these stories, including Hannah Barg, Richard Cahan, Francesco De Salvatore, Ashley Jefferson, Shakira Johnson, and Alexis Judah. Thank you so much, and we look forward to sharing more stories with you very soon. National Public Housing Museum. All right, everyone. Again, thank you for tuning in. Sorry, there was a little bit of a technical difficulty, but that's kind of what happens in this new digital world. We're all figuring it out as we go. So once again, I want to give a shout out to all of our storytellers. Once again, that was Betty Howard, Tommy Woods, Phil Ayala, Janetta Pegues, Sonny Fisher, and Leroy Murphy, as well as the oral historians who helped to gather these stories, Hannah Barg, Richard Cahan, Francesco De Salvatore, Ashley Jefferson, Shakira Johnson, and Alexis Judah. After this, feel free to visit our website, www.nphm.org, if you want to re-listen to this episode, and you'll also be able to find a transcript of the full audio piece while you're there. So once again, thanks to everyone for tuning in, especially any essential workers who might have been tuning in. And remember, in these times, I think so often we come and look for art, we look for music, we look to literature, and let's just remember that there are those people who are doing that really important work right now too, who might be struggling right now. So again, thank you everyone for tuning in, and we hope the last 35 or so minutes have been some sort of breather from what's been going on. On behalf of the NPHM, thank you all, and we will see you next month for episode 3. Everyone be well, stay healthy, and we will see you soon.